What are the fundamental things that a young business person seeking to now attract online customers, prospective ones? And so initially they didn't have, let's say, a Facebook account. Initially they didn't have any other social media accounts. That hasn't got an application, hasn't got a website. What are the first considerations such an individual or firm must take a look at before venturing into?
Okay. Thankfully, there's a lot of information out there. Thanks to search engines like Google, you're able to get insights into how business areas or whatever interest you're in is thriving. And you have to do your research. You have to really validate what problem you want to solve and what business you want to go into. You need to go online and read and watch videos, see how people are doing the things that you want to do before you also take a path into how you want to go into techpreneurship. It's not always straightforward. Businesses differ per the owners, their values, the sort of customer service you want to give, the sort of cost and quality of the service you are offering or the product you're offering. So you also need to understand that there will be some costs that you'll have to incur. Just because you are starting a tech business doesn't mean that everything must be free, because we are already used to engaging with applications via social media for free. So you need to really do your financials well so that whatever venture you're going into will be profitable for you. And last and not the least, you constantly have to be educating yourself in the different technology tools and languages or prospects that are coming. Now we have a lot of these virtual platforms where people are selling their art for billions and thousands of dollars. And we also have, this is a space that you have foreign companies coming into or looking to expand into the African space. So you need to have something that makes you stand out as a business and stick to it. And your success is not going to be overnight. You have to put in the work. You have to put in, you have to sacrifice in the beginning so that you can gain value over time. But one thing that you have to be consistent with is your quality of service, your interactions with your customers, and the knowledge base that you have about your business, so you don't go out of business.
Well, let me just veer off a little and come to the tech world itself and some thoughts people have, myself, until I met a young man. I build websites as well, and I was using an Adobe product called Muse. And it was a bit restrictive in terms of content management. And so I had seen WordPress and Joomla and the rest of them, how they function and everything, but it was a bit scary, especially using Joomla and the coding bit and all of that, until I came across Divi and Elementor and Co, and I realized how easy it is to build a website. Yes, and then also the issues about coding and the fear that people have about it. For those who are desirous of venturing into the tech space in terms of development of apps and websites and the rest of them, how do they kill this mentality that coding is a serious thing?
So coding, like any other skill, is something you have to first have an interest in. You generally have to desire to want to solve a problem using technology. Coding is just the tools that we are given, or the instructions that we are giving the computer to respond to the problem that we have identified to come up with a solution. If you're thinking of going into coding, one thing that you have to think about is, how do I like to solve problems? Am I the type who just like to design it and make it look pretty and make it look intuitive or make it look attractive to whatever the user is going to be engaging with? Or am I the type who likes to think about the logic, think about how complex the system should be, how it should flow, how it should work? those are the two things that I'll say you have to consider before you start to research into the sort of coding you want to build. For those who are interested in the look and feel, the aesthetic value, how you want people to engage with the product, you'll be leaning more towards front-end development. And it's not scary. It's just a skill that you pick over time once you understand that it's something you don't know, it's a gap, it's a knowledge gap you want to fill. There are a lot of resources now, so many resources, from coding for dummies to the coding for very complex problems like AI and machine learning. But for those of you who are very complex, you like to take things from a logic point of view, do a lot of math calculations, equations, comparisons, and just building the logic behind the products that you're building, back-end development will be for you. And there are so many languages that enable you to be able to process the data that you're receiving, so you can add it all together and build a very great app. Coding is simply receiving a computer receiving instructions from a human being, and it's going there, it's being built or being created to solve a problem. So depending on the problem that you want to solve, that would determine the sort of app that you build, or even the kind of interface in which the app will be interacting with. Whether it is a mobile app or a web app, you need to understand that you'll have to do your research to understand the different platforms and what they offer.
Earlier, staying on the tech bit, you made mention of a few of these online, training, websites that you made mention of Udemy,
Yes.
Domestika, recently LinkedIn bought lynda.com. But these websites that we buy these training materials from, for a young man who wants to learn, AI and, graphic design, web development and all that, how expensive or otherwise are these training manuals we're talking about?
So with as little, they have free courses, first of all. Most of the time, the paid courses are maybe you're upgrading in whatever you are investing in, but with as little as $10 or $20, which is about, what's the dollar today?
I think about, let's say 6. Let's peg it at 6.
At 6, so about 60 Ghana cedi, you should be able to get a course that will be able to help you develop in whatever program that you want to go into. We also have physical businesses that run as coding schools. There's one called Code Train, where for that, depending on maybe if you don't have the finances, they do get some grants and support that you can go and speak to them about your situation, and then they'll find a way to get you into their programs. So if you don't have internet at home, but you have a little money that you can pick transportation, you can go to the physical schools here too. But with as little as $10, you should be able to patronize a course online.
How easy is it to get the input of what these videos are teaching you? How easy is it?
So it's not very easy that in one day you will get the concepts, especially when you are now getting into coding and technology. But I would say that after a minimum of 6 months to a year, depending on how smart you are, you will be able to apply the things that you are learning. With everything, there's a learning curve, and especially with coding, and as much as even now we have no-code tools that you can use to build websites, you really have to keep practicing. The more you practice, the more you'll get it. So sometimes I say it's not even about how long it's going to take you, but the quality of your practice, because you can practice for the whole day, and then the next day you'll be able to build a website. And some people, it would take them 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, but because they're not dedicating enough time to be able to understand the concepts and not just see it as, this is something I'm doing to make money, so I have to get it quickly and move. You realize that you lose in the long run. But when you dedicate time, you dedicate effort, you go to the right resources, you recognize that within that period that you learned, you start to benefit from the jobs you get, the quality of your work when your customers interact with your apps, and you'll also be able to sustain the job and not be jumping from one tech sector to the other, or one tech specification to the other?
Well, I decided to this year commit to study app development.
Okay.
Not necessarily doing the back end one.
Okay, the front
My
end.
mind cannot comprehend that. And so I'm learning Adobe XD for starters. Then maybe I may subscribe to one of these online build and then for my clients.
Okay.
But I'm thinking about clients and the usual concerns they raise about costs of either these applications or these websites that we build. Out of Ghana, I know how expensive it is to build a website. Out of Ghana, I know how expensive it is to build an application. You mentioned 10,000 Ghana cedis for an app, and I smiled because I felt it was low. But if you build a website for a client and you say, oh, chief, for this website, pay me between 5,000 and 10,000, he screams because he feels that it ain't really worth it. Do people understand and appreciate the worth of, you know, the work these IT folks do?
No.
So as to make it profitable?
Not at all. And that's one huge problem that we are facing in the industry right now, because we are investing in tools, we are investing in resources, we're investing in people to build these sorts of apps for them. And they always compare to, if I buy a newspaper at 20 cedi and you're asking me to pay 2,000 cedis for you to invest in an app. What they don't realize is the cost is most of the time a one-time cost, where you're going to be making more money than the amount that the initial cost you put in the app. No matter how much you explain the complexity of coding, it's also a human being's intellectual property. People are literally thinking of how can they create math equations, or how can they write code that brings a certain logic to the app that you're building. And here we take, for lack of a better word, the value of that intellectual property as nothing almost. So when you cost an application, they're like, but you're just sitting behind your laptop and you're making 10,000 cedi. That's all that they see. But what they don't see is the sleepless nights where you're trying to figure out, will my equation bring out the value that the person wants? What they don't see is, how is this application going to make my business thrive and connect to the internet, or being integrated with different whether it's payments, whether it's delivery, whether it's pictures, which if you were doing a physical business, you would invest in it individually. And if you were to do the financials of that traditional way of putting together a business and you compare it to the cost of an app, sometimes they don't do that comparison. So it makes it very difficult to communicate and say you want to build this app. But I think we are still educating our customers. We are still making them understand the benefits of investing in applications, so that they don't miss out. I think a lot of people gained this big understanding, especially when the pandemic hit. One thing I keep telling my customers is, don't wait for a time where Africa is cut off from the world, and now you're finding a way to connect and with other people in other African countries, and you don't have any means of doing that without you being able to fly there, or you being able to connect there physically. But invest in the app now for your business. Invest in the resources that technology is offering right now. Don't wait till late, and then you will be caught off guard, and you now spend a lot more money than you would today.
Like and subscribe, and click on the notification. Happy FM, Nimdie, Happy FM, and Nijenkwa.